Welcome back. We are pleased to be joined this noon by the president of the Hamilton County Commission. He is Greg Hartman. And Greg, it seems like we always luck out when we have you in as a studio guest because there's always hot button issues to discuss when it comes to the county. First of all, it's being reported widely that the Bengals and Reds are going to be getting some new fields, and I stress playing surfaces here. We're not talking about building brand new stadiums, thankfully, but tell us about this, and there's quite a bit of buzz here that the taxpayers are footing this bill.
Well, under the leases, mainly when the Bengals threatened to leave town, a lot of those duties of costs like field replacement were picked up by the taxpayers. The good news in this situation is the Bengals are paying almost 80% of these field replacements, and so the field at Paul Brown Stadium, wear and tear, need a new field. Also, we've got to replace the two grass fields that are to the west of Paul Brown Stadium. That's a good news item because they're going to move training camp there, so those fields have got to be ready for that.
Price tag about $1.5 million. Is that in the ballpark?
That's about right. That's
okay.
about
ballpark, right. You know, obviously using that with that pun intended. Right. So you mentioned with training camp moving to Paul Brown Stadium, so that certainly does put more stress on the facilities, and at least the county may be seeing some revenue generated by increased tourism. So perhaps that's not such a bad thing.
I think it's a big deal. I think moving training camp here, combined with a lot that's going on down at the banks on the riverfront, another good news item, and I think good for residents here because that is going to drive revenue. We're going to get a lot of visitors coming to camp.
Let's go ahead and shift gears a bit and move on to some of the economic development with the banks right up the street from the stadiums. And first of all, let's talk about the casino. How much do you believe those two will play off one another from an economic standpoint?
I think in a big way. We're sometimes not very good at kind of tooting our own horn here. We got a lot of great things going on, casino development and a mixed retail residential development at the banks that is not happening really anywhere in the country. And so I think those two will play off of each other. We got a lot of good things going on right now.
All right. Hopefully some of those folks at the casino will check out the banks and vice versa. Before we go, we want to have you as well. Any new talk about any new leases being accepted with the banks? Obviously, we heard about Ruth's Chris last week. You know, Toby Keith's facilities getting ready to open, the Lager House getting ready. Any other names you can share with us at this point that may be getting ready to sign on the bottom line, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've got almost 100% of the residential units rented, almost 80% of the retail space. I think the next thing's coming, without giving you names, we need a coffee shop down there, and I think we also need some type of a grocery store for the folks that are living down there.
Okay, yeah, we've done countless stories on the fact that there really is not a grocery store in the downtown area. So looking forward to further developments on that. Greg, always glad to have you here. You're always more than willing to come in, and we appreciate your time as always.
Thanks for having me.
Well, still ahead, Alabama's governor